my name is Carl Rodriguez, and today I'll be presenting to you my final video presentation for economic geography. And the item or product that I will be talking about today is none other than the classic Bass Pro Shops mesh cap. And so I just picked this bad boy up today when I walked into the nice Bass Pro Shops here in Gainesville and Celebration Point. You can find this hat literally at the front of the store in this video. And so here we have Bass Pro Shops, the Gainesville location located in Celebration Point. This is me opening the doors, as you can see to the left. This is the Gainesville location. So as you walk in, obviously there's a lot of hunting themed and fishing themed memorabilia, as you can see to the right. Some deer that are stuffed as well as some fish. So here's the entrance, very grand. As you walk in, you see a lot of ATVs and such to the right. But the first few things might be a few knickknacks, and then boom, right there. All the hats, all in the colors you like. So as you can see from the video, this is a very important hat, right? Especially to the store. It's made from 100% polyester, and it also has a mesh background. It was made and imported from Vietnam. And I talked to the store manager just before leaving, and I was asking them how it is distributed from Vietnam to the locations in the United States. And he basically told me that Springfield, Missouri is the headquarters. It is like the major distributor of Bass Pro Shops related items. And so it is imported directly to Springfield, where it is then processed and shipped to other stores nationwide. Additionally, other stores can distribute back to other stores. So let's say the Bass Pro Shops down in Broward County, Florida has too many of these bad boys right here, these mesh caps. It can basically ship it to the Gainesville one in Celebration Point, or vice versa, depending on how much they have or how much they need. And so not only is there main supplier to the other stores distribution, but there's also store-to-store distribution, which I thought was pretty interesting. And so some might say, how does this $6 hat impact Bass Pro Shops as a brand? Well, this hat, that aside from the logo and stuff, is synonymous with Bass Pro Shops as a store, as a brand. It's a staple. As you saw in the video, it was one of the first things, if not it was literally the second thing you see when you walk into that giant store. And you can find it in other places around as well. And so they have their own clothing line. This is part of it. And so among others, this clothing line is actually a little cheaper than some of the others, such as Columbia and such as, Southern Tide and Salt Life and whatnot. Tommy Bahama, to give you some examples. But this $6 hat does contribute to the $6.55 billion in retail sales that Bass Pro Shops had in 2019. I know that they did not sell 6 billion of these hats, but they do definitely sell enough, because I remember in high school, these used to be about $3.99, not $5.99. So they've gone up, which might not sound like a lot. $2 is not going to break the bank, but that is a 50% increase, which I think is significant. And it has to do with the demand and the popularity of the cap. And so I'm not sure how many are sold annually, but it definitely is a popular item. For them to have it in the front of most of their stores, and for them to have a 50% price hike. And so now I'd like to get into this hat and how it is related to Vietnam and how it's imported and taxed and whatnot. And so the imports on Vietnam have been going up in the past few years. I think this is in part due to the Trump administration, but I'd like to see how this plays out with Biden's administration. It just started, so I can't make any comments on that just yet. But the bilateral trade between the two, between the Vietnam and the United States in 2020 was about $90 billion, with 10 billion of that us exporting to them, and the other 80 billion us importing from them. And so you might say, wow, it's a stark trade deficit with Vietnam. But it turns out that Vietnam is actually the second largest supplier of apparel to the United States. And they both have signed textile, air transport, customs, and maritime agreements to ease this and keep the flow of imports and exports smooth between the two countries. And so I wanted to know just about what's the percentage of this? How much does this get taxed as an import? And so I did some research. The closest thing I could find to this 100% polyester hat was 100% polyester t-shirt. And that is taxed at just about 32% if it's made in Vietnam and sold in the United States. So I'd say that is probably as close as I can get in terms of research. But I thought this was interesting because not only is the United States the #2 exporter of polyester, but we're also the #3 importer. So it's not often that a country is, #2 and #3 in importing and exporting the same good, whether it's an input good or not. And so I have to think that the reason that this is built or assembled in Vietnam and shipped over is because of the lower wages that are paid to these Vietnamese people. And so you might think, Vietnam must have a very low minimum wage. It does compared to the United States. It has a lower one, but it actually has a higher minimum wage than some of its neighboring Asian countries. The reason that we supply this foreign direct investment to Vietnam is because their infrastructure is just better, which makes it more attractive for the investors. So some implications on the developing world. I think all in all, Vietnam benefits as well as the United States from this trade. It's just, some might think it's just a hat, but there's definitely other apparel and clothing that is traded between the two, and resources and money and investment. So the GDP of Vietnam is being increased, but how are the working conditions? That's what I would like to know. How are the nominal wages in Vietnam are rising, but how about the real wages? Are people able to buy more? Are people, spending more? Is the cost of living increasing? Those are the real questions I'd like to have answered. And that is probably a little bit beyond the scope of this presentation. But I'd like to end with the fact that this is a great hat. You can find it at any Bass Pro Shops and on their website. And it sells so good because, you've seen this hat. Come on, this cannot be the first time you've seen this hat. If you've gone to the beach, if you've gone to Lake Wahlberg, if you've gone fishing once, then you've probably seen this hat or some of its other merch from Bass Pro Shops. It's a great hat from the #5 largest sporting goods store in the world. And it just, in Bass Pro Shops, you can literally go in there for anything. You can go in there for hiking, for hunting, boating, fishing, and you can go all the way down the line. You can wear this hat with any of those activities. And so I think that the fact that it's a complement good to all those activities that are in the store makes it a very good product. And it's definitely reliable. So I'm not advertising for them or anything, but it's a nice hat and comes in many different colors, very stylish. I really appreciate you guys for listening. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.